so as we continue here, I mentioned that I'm from Farrell, and one of the things I've always taken a great deal of pride in is the success of football in the state of Pennsylvania. I know you Ohio people like to lay claim to it too, as you should, but there's just something special to me growing up as a Steeler fan, seeing it, you know, from the grassroots level, Pitt, Penn State, you know, that whole legacy in western Pennsylvania and throughout central Pennsylvania. So football is in our blood. We love that sport. It's something special. And as you know, Croatians are some hard-headed and strong people, man. They put those pads and those helmets on, and they are sometimes invincible on the gridiron. So to tell us more about our next inductee, please welcome Shannon Stydahar Schultz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shannon Stydahar Schultz. I am the eldest grandchild of Chicago Bears' first ever draft pick and Pro Football Hall of Famer Joseph Stydahar. But in my family, in my heart, he's just my Papa Joe. Before I begin, I would like to say a very sincere thank you to the NFCA for inviting us all to share in this amazing evening. Thank you to the committee members who chose to include my grandfather amongst this impressive group of athletes. And thank you to everyone who took their time and energy to put this special event together. I'm very honored to represent my family tonight, accepting this award on my grandpa's behalf. I unfortunately never had the opportunity to meet my grandfather. He passed away in 1977, 1 year before I was born. Not long ago, I realized that my grandpa actually passed away 4 days before my husband was born. It makes me happy to think that maybe he was present for that draft selection. Some of you might be thinking, what can she have to say about someone she never actually knew? And well, in all honesty, when writing this speech, I kind of asked myself the same question. But I quickly came to the realization that despite never knowing my grandfather, he's always been very present in my life. And so tonight I'd like to share with you a few stories that remind me of that. And I'm going to try not to get emotional. 16 years ago, my first son was born. Shoot, I'm already messing up. While we were preparing for an Easter arrival, my son decided he'd rather be a Valentine's Day baby, coming into this world on February 13th, 2006. Now, if anybody notices what number my grandpa might be wearing up there, having been born 7 weeks early, I had the difficult experience of having to go home without my baby, needing to leave him behind in the care of our hospital NICU because he was unable to eat on his own. I remember coming home that first day and walking into my son's nursery and thinking to myself, this is not how it's supposed to be. But I then vividly remember looking up and seeing my grandpa's picture that I had framed and hung at the end of his crib. And I don't know if it's possible to actually lock eyes with a photo, but I very much remember thinking to myself, our number 13 is looking over my number 13, and he's going to be fine. That preemie baby is now 16 years old, and I can very much assure you he has figured out how to eat. Okay, I'm good now. All right, moving forward. Fast forward 13 years. Do we see a pattern forming here? The Chicago Bears celebrated their 100th anniversary with a huge celebration and fan convention. My son and I traveled 2 hours south, or just outside of the Milwaukee area. I will say that growing up a Bears fan in green and gold territory wasn't the easiest. We headed for the convention all decked out in our Stydahar 13 gear, ready to soak up some Bears history, knowing that my grandpa was a big part of that. One of my main hopes in attending was to meet Chicago Bears Hall of Famer Mike Ditka, who had played on my grandpa's 1963 championship team. I had always heard what a close relationship my grandpa and Mike had, and hoped that I might be able to connect with someone who had been so connected with him in that realm of his life. We planned ahead, we got there early. What I did not anticipate was the 2-hour line to even get in the building. And when we got in, unfortunately, that meant we had missed Mr. Ditka's autograph session. Not quite willing to concede, meeting this person that I knew was such a direct connection to my grandpa, I spoke with the security director and explained my situation. It most definitely helped that all of the Hall of Famers had these 30-foot wide banners placed all across the convention center. And my grandpa's banner just so happened to be at the end of Mike's autograph line. Coincidence? I'd like to believe not. After hearing the situation, this amazing security director that I've been connected with says, can't hurt to ask, right? A few minutes later, he returned frantic, telling me to follow him, and my son and I are now following him past these lines of people that are giving us dirty looks, like where are they going? Behind this curtain that says personnel only. Behind the personnel only curtain was Mike Ditka and what appeared to be a very annoyed security staff. I introduced myself to Mike and we took a few pictures. He told me what a great man my grandfather was. And with an immense sense of pride, I thanked him for allowing us to come say hello and giving us that couple minutes. That moment in and of itself was enough. My son and I walked out thinking, okay, we can go home now. Doesn't get better than that. But actually what happened after was more impactful than almost that moment. As we exited the curtain area, the director said, don't go anywhere, I have to tell you what happened. And we step off to the side, and he said that when he first went back there, my security team had said, no, we don't have time for that, we have to go on. But apparently my security director wasn't willing to give up that day, just like I wasn't, and he said my name louder. He said Stydahar so that Mike could hear him. And when Mike heard him say Stydahar, he turned and asked him, what are you talking about? And my security director explained the situation, and he said, we will wait, you bring her back here. And though our meeting was brief, knowing that Mike Ditka put his entire crew on hold to meet me in honor of my grandpa's memory, spoke volumes to me about his impact on his players and meant more to me than he'll ever know. And maybe it's because of this same desire to connect with a grandfather that I never had the privilege of knowing, I have always been very proud of my Croatian heritage. Even as a little girl, when people would incorrectly guess my nationality after butchering my name because of that oddly placed Y in the middle, I would proudly pronounce, and still do, no, it's Croatian. As I mentioned before, I am my Papa Joe's eldest grandchild, but what I didn't say was that I am his eldest of 5 granddaughters, which means this branch of the Stydahar name will likely end with my generation. Knowing this, we do all we can to keep his legacy present, whether it's my naming my second son, Parker Joseph, or that my boys automatically choose the number 13 for any sports they are involved in, or the fact that my sister, cousins, and I have all hyphenated our married names to hold on to the Stydahar part for as long as possible. And while his legacy will never be forgotten by our family, we are so terribly grateful for recognitions like this one tonight that keep his memory alive. On behalf of the Stydahar family, I again want to thank the NFCA, its members, and this impressive group of athletes for including my grandpa in this evening. And I think that's it.
Ingo Harris.
First day of ever draft?
Yeah, when the draft was began.
He was the
First ever.
She had me tearing up over there. I don't know about you. You did a fantastic job. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Allow me to throw a plug in there for the great Mike Ditka, by the way. That's a wonderful story. Aliquippa, PA, 9,000 people in the city of Aliquippa. They have 9 guys in the NFL, 3 in the Hall of Fame. They gave us Pete Maravich and Tito Francona. That's a pretty spectacular run for a town of 9,000 people. All right.